Welcome back to Grindhouse Chic, starring Robert Schneider. With me, as always, is the Ed McMahon to my Johnny Carson, the Andy Richter to my Conan O'Brien, the Artie Lang to Howard Stern, my co-host, Matt Armstrong.
I'd rather be the masturbating bear to your Conan.
Well, that's what your wife calls you.
Oh,
Brian Baldwin is still stuck in his hole that he's trying to dig between his house and Grindhouse Video in Tennessee. And he did send me a text in the middle of the night a few days ago. It said, "Mole people are real. Help." Now, when I read it, it said moles are real. And I'm like, call it exterminator. I haven't heard from him since. If we
They'll
don't
get out of there one day.
If we don't hear from him soon, we're gonna have a wake. But Matt, go on.
I was just gonna say that's when he's gonna show up when we least expect it.
Yeah, like we're a bad soap opera.
It's gonna be his evil twin brother,
Ryan.
Yeah.
And the only difference is he's wearing a mustache.
Yes.
Which he's always stroking diabolically. Before we get into what the topic of today's show, I want to talk about, man, you have spent probably $1,000 this month between your Kino sale, joining the TerrorVision subscription, and ordering every partner label from Vinegar Syndrome except for one.
Whoa, two, except for two. Let's not make me look that bad.
And then partaking in the Canadian International Pictures. Dude, you really got to get your FOMO out of back into control.
Yeah, I actually since we're talking about it, I got a couple from the 420 sale too.
Oh no.
And I just saw that Solomon King slip was getting low, so I grabbed that since I
you have the rare slip.
Yeah, but I don't have this one.
It doesn't matter. You have the rare slip.
Yeah, I've got a problem. We know this.
And we're gonna solve your problem eventually. But I took part in the Kino sale as well, and then Thursday I went back and ordered more.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw that.
Did you get your shipped yet?
I got my first batch shipped. I got that on Wednesday.
Nice.
And I was very pleased. I've watched 3 of the movies so far. Man on the Moon, which I've seen before. Got the Guyana film, which is loosely based on the Guyana tragedy. They just changed everyone's name ever so slightly. Instead of Jim Jones, it was Jeff Johns or something like that. Like they did not really think too hard on, this film is based on real, this film might be based on real people, but it's not, type thing. Mm-hmm. You could tell who this was firmly based on. Let's just slightly change the names. And it was a bad movie. Like, I'm glad I only paid $9.99 for it. But oh crap! No, I take it back. I watched 4. So then I watched the one I was really excited about, Busting, the Peter Hyams film, starring what's his name? Elliot Gould and Robert Blake.
The guy who looks like Ross Geller's dad.
He is Ross Geller's dad.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Elliot. What? I mean,
well, I'm thinking of a different guy that looks like.
No, it is. It's Elliot Gould who played Ross Geller's dad. I've never seen Friends, but I know he was on there.
Who was the guy who was in
He was also in MASH.
Who was the guy that was in was he in Sex World, or was it some movie we watched? There's a guy that looks exactly like him. If it's not him,
it's not Jamie Gillis.
Man, I can't remember. But
But
yeah, we something we watched. This dude popped up and he had some pretty adult scenes, and I was like, damn, Ross Geller's dad is.
Elliot, I think you're thinking of Jamie Gillis. Elliot Gould is a classy actor. Um, he was in the Ocean's movies and he was in the MASH movie.
Okay.
Yeah, but Busting was fantastic.
Yeah.
I never heard of it before. I heard Tarantino and Roger Avery talk about it on the Video Archives podcast, and I was like, I need to see this movie. At that point, it was out of print and it was really expensive. And then I guess at some point it got re-released by Kino, and I grabbed it for $10. And I also grabbed Allison Anders' film Grace of My Heart, which I really enjoyed. It's basically a fictional retelling of the Carole King story. The only thing that sucks about it is the lip syncing, which was pretty bad, but otherwise a really good film.
Nice.
And then I got my Vinegar Syndrome order in on Thursday, and I've watched quite a bit of it already. I've watched the 2 Vacations of Terror, the adult double feature, and one other one.
Curse of the Blue Lights.
No, it wasn't. Oh, Justice of the Ninja.
Oh, how was that?
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, VHS hit fest. Put their heart and soul in that movie. It's too bad that Vinegar Syndrome can't just do a movie where New York Ninja versus Missouri Ninja. But
I
yeah,
think they can make it happen.
yeah. So you watch anything good beside what we're going to be talking about today? Because I really want to get into it. I'm excited. I am so excited.
I watched I went and saw, well, first I guess the one that I'll start with. I watched the new Power Rangers movie.
I watched that as well.
Yeah, it was I don't know, it just seemed like a extra long episode that really just didn't need to happen, but it was kind of
It was good seeing Zach and Billy and
yeah.
the second Red Ranger and the second or third Pink Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
What sucked about it, where was Bulk and Skull? I know they were just
Yeah.
assigned together, but they were the heart and soul of the original Power Rangers franchise.
Yeah, that's what me and my friend watched it, and I was like, they keep going back to the Angel Grove juice bar. I was like, they've got to pop up, and they never did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the last time I think we saw Bulk was in one of the ninja shows where he was training Skull's kid how to be a ninja. And only learned Skull was like a multi-millionaire.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see everyone. I felt like it was just so forced to kind of work around all the people who didn't come back or aren't living anymore.
Well, I mean, the guy who played Tommy the Green Ranger, he was offered it and said the script wasn't worth it and the money they were paying him wasn't worth it. Amy Jo, who played the original Pink Ranger, she's like, I'm 50 some years old now. I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah.
And the guy who played the original Red Ranger, I think he's in jail right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think all the budget really went to David Yost's Botox in his face. That thing's rough looking.
I also have a feeling they're setting up a new Mighty Morphin Power Rangers revival with it, where where Zach or Billy are going to be like the Zordon to them, and Trini's daughter is going to be her friends will be the new Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I think so.
I will tell you, I was a little bit touched at the end when they did the in memorial and we saw the scene with them together and she was playing the guitar singing. It's like, those were the days.
Yeah.
Back when I had all my hair.
Other than that, I went and saw the Evil Dead Rise yesterday morning.
How was it?
It it was good, pretty entertaining. I think it was. I'd say it's probably the worst in the series, but still pretty good.
I is it connected to the original three? Now I don't count the two.
Um,
I do not count the 2013 version.
no, it's standalone other than the premise of it, but I don't know. I kind of wish they did something new in it, something more original, but it was just kind of seemed kind of generic, like a generic horror movie. But so, there were some really cool things in it.
That's cool. I wanted to see Beau is Afraid, but I couldn't find 3 hours to go see it.
Yeah, I couldn't. Closest place around here was like an hour drive,
Yeah,
so we just didn't bother.
It's playing a few places. It's playing like walking distance, but it was showing was at 5:30 today. I had a show and
Mm,
I would have missed the show, and it was my turn to host.
okay.
Um, so I want to talk about one more thing. I was reading something on Twitter, and I saw someone made a post. Oh no, it was in one of the Facebook groups about Culture Shock. We have noticed they have not had anything listed for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and someone said they are going to be doing some releases outside of Vinegar Syndrome, mostly their adult titles, and I find that weird because we've kind of been in this place with Fun City where
Mm-hmm.
they stopped doing stuff for a month and came back and then announced, "Oh, we're leaving."
Right.
Do you think Culture Shock is leaving?
I don't know. It does seem weird that we haven't got anything in a little bit, but
Yeah, Thrust was their last release.
yeah. I don't know. I just don't see. I mean, I guess I can't say that because the other two have been successful. I was going to say I don't see how they can have as much success if they branch off, but seems like TerraVision and Fun City are still doing fine.
Well, I mean, Fun City got a good distribution deal.
Mm-hmm.
TerraVision got Brad Henderson.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I'm going to wait and see when those two movies come out. Uh, if I like them,
Mm-hmm.
I'll consider buying more, but I don't think I'll subscribe.
Yeah. I think on one hand it would be nice to have less partner labels because it someone like me it's a daunting task when you have issues, but um it would be cool if it wasn't. It would be cool if that wasn't one of the ones that went away.
Yeah. I mean, I just bought two partner labels this month: Vinyl Nation and Justice Ninja Style. Which I watched the original cut, not the longer one, and at some point I might go back and do that. I mean, it was such a stupid movie, so fucking stupid.
But good though.
Oh, it had me thoroughly entertained with how bad the acting was and how the story wasn't that thought out.
Yeah.
And in some way points, this movie was kind of racist.
I can see that.
But yeah, that's what you expect from a shot on video movie made in Missouri. All right. This week we're doing something special with the show. We are doing our video store picks. Matt, did you ever work in a video store?
No, I did not.
Okay. You suck. I worked in two, and I was the lead at Tower Records of their video department.
Nice.
So I worked at Blockbuster, and I worked at a place called Movies in Atlanta, and it was Moovies. Yeah, it it was different than Blockbuster because we sold we rented adult content. It was always so embarrassing going to restock stuff in there because the rule was you don't make eye contact.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard not making eye contact when someone is grabbing right at the movie you're restocking. Your hands touch for a second. The two of you look at each other, going, "Are things about to get weird?" They never do because it's just as awkward for them as it is for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my favorite part about working in video stores, besides being able to get movies for free, was getting to choose, getting my space on the shelf with the employee picks. And I was always that guy. I was the movie snob who would always put out the most obscure things that nobody would ask me about. And sometimes I would do it just to counter someone else's programming on their shelf. Like someone put National Velvet, I put Blue Velvet, hoping they would grab that one by mistake. I thought this was a movie about horses.
Yeah.
It is not. But it was interesting because these were not your favorite movies of all time, but these are the movies that you either just watched and wanted to share with someone, or it was one you really liked and it disappointed you every time that you saw it on a shelf and looked up its rental. The last person who took it out was you. So, no, but that was my favorite part of working in a video store. And because of like the rumors of Blockbuster coming back and that Arrow video store box set, we decided we are going to do our picks of working at a video store. And we are doing 8 categories: sci-fi, comedy, cult, action, classic, drama, foreign, and horror. So Matt, how did you, just overall, how did you make your picks?
I kind of first just went with stuff that kind of came to my mind at first. Looked through some of my watch lists, kind of narrowed it down a little more, and then in the end kind of chose I think I've got a half and half mix of maybe things people have heard of, and then the other half are kind of lesser known films. Um but they're all just kind of movies that I haven't seen a ton of times, but when I saw them, um, it was something that I kind of wanted to have someone else watch to see what they thought about it. So
Okay.
just stuff that kind of, struck a chord with me. Not necessarily something that I'm going to sit there and watch over and over.
Um, so I picked it pretty differently. Like my list completely changed. We were supposed to record this over the last couple weeks, but for various reasons we couldn't, mostly because I was working. So only one movie on my list remains from my original selections. Like I recently watched something. I'm like, oh shit, I need to tell the world about this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is so fresh. I'll say it was one of the new Vinegar Syndrome movies that I watched.
Mm.
I'm like, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about it today. And so let's get started. What category do you want to start with?
I guess we can start with our bread and butter here. We can start with horror if you want.
Sure, go ahead with your first pick.
Okay, so my horror pick is not a typical horror film. I think that you have heard of this one. I think I might have mentioned it to you before, but the backstory is that the Lutheran Church set out to release a PSA, and they commissioned a director to create an educational film about elder abuse and ageism. Once they got the movie, they refused to release it at the time because it was too disturbing for them. The
Okay,
director,
hold on.
go ahead.
Matt, I'm gonna. Was this film actually released on home video back in the day?
I don't know if it was home video, but it was released, yes.
I know the movie you're talking about. I don't think we can include it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry. I enjoyed the amusement park as well, but since it didn't have a release back in the day, we can't count it because the rules were movies that were actually released from on home video, and they could be from the 20s all the way to 2005 or 6.
okay.
I'm sorry, man.
Well, I mean, were home movies really released in the 20s?
No, I mean they were released in the video store era.
Yeah, it probably wasn't released in the video store. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead with yours. I'll try and think of another one.
Okay. All right. So I had a whole nother movie pick for horror, and then Friday night I watched Vacation of Terror 2 Diabolical Birthday, directed by Pedro Gallia, Galindo the third. Um, it is the sequel to the dreadful Vacation of Terror, which I'm going to say isn't that bad, but it wasn't that good either. You know, it's a bad movie when you're fiddling with your phone during it. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, all right, I have the disc and the second movie's on here, so I watched it, and I'm like, holy crap, this movie is so fucking bonkers. Only one character from the original returns. His name is Julio, and basically there is no mention of the first movie at all. It could be a completely different movie with him playing a different character and it would still work. So he is now working in an antique store, and this beautiful girl comes in. He recognizes her as a Mexican pop star teen idol, and he immediately starts flirting with her. And she reciprocates and invites him to her 8-year-old sister's her sister's eighth birthday party at her father, who is a movie studio owner, on the lot. And I am like, huh, I I guess I don't have any game because none of this would work for me. The pop star is played by this girl named Tatiana, who I guess was a big deal in Mexico at the time and for some time after that.
Hmm.
As he walks out of the store, he sees her sister in the car with the evil devil doll from the first movie. And then he reacts to it. Then this weird guy comes to the store and starts breaking things. And he's like, the evil is following you. The evil is following you. Then he runs out of the store and gets run over by a car. I also should note that Julio is wearing now a trench coat, which I think basically because he's now a somewhat expert on demonology, he is the first version of John Constantine in film history. The movie just gets more bonkers from there. He shows up at the party. Um, the Devil Doll is going to be a star in a movie of itself, which makes the girl's father a genius for having a Devil Doll in a real movie. But then the Devil Doll starts to grow and become a goblin. And then it just gets even more bonkers from there. Um, there was nothing about this movie that I hated. It was just a fun thrill ride, and it looked like it would have been something that I would have rented back in the day. I know it was available on home video. It was just one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen, and Pedro is now my new favorite director because it was just that good. While it wasn't scary, it did have some nice scares in it. It also has when Tatiana sang this song at her sister's birthday called Chico, that basically how much she loves boys that you will never get out of your head. It's like an earworm that just sticks with you, sticks with you, sticks with you. And if I was still working in a video store, and really if they still existed, and someone asked me why should they rent this movie, I'm like, this is either the Mexican Troll 2 or the Mexican Evil Dead. And the guy who played Julio is basically the Mexican Ash, because he could have just been involved with this movie again and again as he hunted the Devil Doll every time it reemerged.
This is the second one you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I just absolutely loved it. And it's the perfect hangout movie. I wish there was a version of it where they did put the videotape version on here, because that's the way it's probably meant to be watched, not
Yeah.
clean. And the fact that the Vinegar Syndrome print wasn't exactly cleaned up, it was still messy in spots, but this is definitely a VHS, or you want the VHS version of this.
Hmm. So
All
would
right.
you say it's better than the first one?
I would say the first one had a different director. It had Rene Cardona the third.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm pretty sure the doll that was used in both these movies was the same doll from Cardona's his grandfather's film, The Bermuda Triangle, which is in the
Hmm.
Cardona box set.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Nice.
it is way better. I mean, it shouldn't be called Vacation of Terror because there was no vacation in this one.
I wonder if it had a alternate title that
Well,
that made more sense.
It did. It was Diabolical Birthday. I mean, Vacations of Terror 2,
Hmm.
Diabolical Birthday.
Does that one make more sense?
Well, it is a birthday and it is diabolical, so yes. All right.
Nice.
So now you had a chance to reconfigure.
Yeah, I'll go with I don't know if you said that you saw this one before, but I know that I don't have my list here with my backups here, but I know this one was on it. Um it's from 1998,
Okay.
directed by Joe Chappelle, who
Okay.
directed, I believe, what most people consider to be the worst Halloween movie, The Curse of Michael Myers.
Yeah. I know. I still think the one, the one after H2O is the worst.
Okay. I am talking about Phantoms. Um, did you say you saw this one?
All right. How can you call Phantoms a bad movie?
I didn't. I don't think it's a bad movie.
Yeah,
I'm
that's right.
saying that.
Because it stars one Benjamin Affleck.
Yeah, I was saying The Curse of Michael Myers was a bad
Okay.
movie.
Okay. Okay. All right. I
No.
just didn't want to cancel our show
Yeah.
right now because you were about to insult the great Benjamin Affleck.
No, I love Ben Affleck
Thank you.
And Phantoms. Um
In the immortal words of Ben Affleck and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Affleck was a motherfucker. I know I misquoted it for you, but that was a sentiment.
um did you see this before?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I actually didn't see it until after Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back, and I
Okay.
rented the DVD of it.
Yeah, this was one that I actually did rent a bunch from our local video store on VHS. Um and it's one that um I don't know if you like played video games at all, but there was a video game created called Silent Hill.
I've played Silent Hill.
This
I,
like
I unfortunately saw the movie called Silent Hill.
Yeah, the movie wasn't great. But this kind of reminded me of that game. I know the game came out later, but um just kind of like a old kind of small town that kind of gets taken over by evil. A lot of
Evil.
yeah. Kind of just like real creepy imagery. Um some real creepy uh score. There's a song that plays through it constantly that's creepy. Um but it eventually comes down to the sheriff, who is Ben Affleck, wearing the biggest hat I've ever seen, and this is Colorado, so I'm not sure why he's I'm not sure why he's a cowboy sheriff. um but there's an evil has taken out
Evil.
the whole community. And it's kind of just up to this group of people to figure out what's going on. It's Ben Affleck is the sheriff. Liev Schreiber is his I think it might have been his deputy,
Okay.
his second in command or whatever. It's got Rose McGowan,
Rose
who
McGowan. Yeah, it was a
she just
evil.
she ruined Miramax films.
Did I ever tell you I met her?
uh
I was down at South by Southwest, and somehow one of my friends who was down there with from work got invited to the Robert Rodriguez party, and I'm like, let's go. I was hoping to meet him so I could talk about the El Mariachi trilogy with him. And we got there, and the band from Dusk Till Dawn was playing, and then Machete just kind of joined, the guy who played Machete kind of just joined them on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And someone said, sing. And he goes, Machete don't sing. So,
Kind of a little sidebar related to that. Danny Trejo, who played Machete,
yeah, yeah.
he was doing an event here in my little town in Ohio, where he was doing a kind of like a reading and question and answers for his book that he just wrote.
Okay.
And then that was like the first half of the meeting, and then the second half was him. The book that he wrote was like a cookbook, so the second half of the show was him like cooking food for everyone.
That's cool.
It was just super random. I didn't get to go because I had class and I couldn't miss it, but I was like, man, I really want to go see Danny Trejo cook some tacos.
All right. I'm going to finish up telling you the story.
Yep.
Laura Pepon there was from that 70s show.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my friends, I can't say his name for what I'm about to tell you next, was there as well. And he was just chatting her up all night. I did meet Rose McGowan and she wanted to not talk to me. And I was okay with that. I was heartbroken. So the next morning, we were all leaving back to where we lived at the time, and he was not there. And then he comes strolling into the airport like a half hour late. Our planes were delayed. I'm like, where the fuck were you? Then he showed me some pictures on his phone. He ended up having the sex with Donna from that 70s show.
Oh, nice.
And then he immediately deleted the pictures because he was married.
Ooh.
And he goes, the things I could tell you. And I'm like, I really don't want to hear them. You're going to tell me anyway. And now I carry the secret for him that I'm revealing on this podcast that thankfully he doesn't even know exists.
But his wife, #1 fan.
I hope not. All right, so go back to Phantoms.
Yeah, just I really liked that it had kind of similarities to like The Thing, Blob, kind of in the way that the evil kind of takes people over and kind of transforms them. I'm gonna have to figure out how to put like a little echoey sound effect on this whenever you say that.
All right, I gotta go back to the very. It wasn't he was a motherfucker. Ben Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms. My problem with Phantoms, again, I think it's a good movie. I think it was a victim of being a 90s horror film, which was just big stars. I don't think the script for the movie was that great. I know it's based on a Dean Koontz novel that I've never read, but
yeah, it was kind of on the tail end of the 90s, so it did kind of lose some of that early 90s charm, but I think it's one that left it wide open for a sequel, and it just never happened.
What I hope is somebody finally re-releases that on Blu-ray or 4K, because I would love to revisit that movie. But
yeah, I know there is a Blu-ray out, but I know it's like a long out of print one that I think is really expensive.
yeah, it's time for somebody to re-release that motherfucker.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, because everyone needs to see Ben Affleck in 4K fighting monsters
with a cowboy hat.
Yeah. All right. Well, what category do you want to choose next?
Let's go. What order do I have these written in? I've got drama next.
Okay. I'll let you go first this time.
All right. For drama, I have a film that a couple semesters ago I actually had to take an intro to film appreciation class. Not sure why when I'm going to school for engineering, but this class came up for me. But this was one of the movies that we had to watch, and it really kind of just stuck with me ever since then. It's from 1961. It is called The Children's Hour.
Okay.
Directed by William Wyler, who also directed uh, Roman Holiday and Ben-Hur. Um, it's got some big names. It stars Audrey Hepburn, Shirley MacLaine, and James Garner. And essentially, the two female leads, Audrey and Shirley, they run a private school um, for girls, like an all-girl private school, and they're like they're like making it big. They're breaking the molds with these, being women in the 60s, kind of running a successful, business, even though it's a school. um and then the two girls are close. They've been friends kind of their whole lives, but the one girl, Audrey Hepburn, is um engaged to James Garner. And then Shirley MacLaine's character is just kind of single, just doing her thing. And then at one point, one of the girls in the movie, um, Mary Tilford, um, comes across a book that's got some kind of erotic kind of stories in it, and she's kind of sharing it with her little friends up in their room. And um, she one day goes up to one of the doors where the two leads are talking, and hears some things that kind of sound somewhat similar to things she read in the book. So she calls up her, it's either her aunt or her grandma, and is pretty much like, hey, my teachers are lesbians. um so from there, everything falls apart. Their lives are ruined for, basically gossip. All the parents come and remove their kids from the school, and they're like losing all their money. They can't leave the house. Karen's, who is Audrey Hepburn, her fiance, leaves her. And um, just really kind of struck a chord with, just, similar to how when I watch like Spike Lee movies, it's like, very similar to things that are still happening today. And this was, what is this, 60 years ago? um but just very dark. At one point, Shirley MacLaine kind of feels like, oh, maybe I do have these feelings. I've always kind of felt like something was wrong with me. And then everyone starts turning on her, and there's a kind of like a tragic ending, and just kind of like, just really really sticks with you. um I think it could be something that, you could watch it today and think it was a movie made recently, if it wasn't black and white.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I've heard of it though. It's based on a book, right?
It's either a book or a play. I think it might be both. I know there was a play that came out a couple years before, um, that got a lot of heat, but they went ahead and made the movie anyway.
Okay.
But just very like, just has an ending that just really kind of like kicks you in the teeth, and you're just kind of like, just feel like dread for the rest of the night after you watch it.
Yeah, again, I want to see it. I've never have. Now, is that on Blu-ray? Oh, you saw it in film class.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I have.
I believe it is on. I think it's on DVD actually. It's what I have. Um, but yeah, another thing that I took away from it, that, not to go in the opposite direction of how solemn the movie was, but Audrey Hepburn always gets all the credit for, being like the star back then. But I think Shirley MacLaine was, I think she was the one.
I mean, she's always been a good actress in terms of endearment.
Yeah.
But I mean, Audrey Hepburn was the star. I mean,
There is a Blu-ray actually from Kino.
I'll have to pick it up.
I don't think I saw it in the sale though.
Yeah, not everything was on sale as I learned, because I did get Dressed to Kill and
Mm.
on the 4K, and it wasn't on sale, but I figured since I was spending the money, I might as well do it.
Yeah, if you're ever in the mood to just be real sad, pop this one in.
Well, my drama pick is not a happy film either. It is the 1968 Frank Perry directed Burt Lancaster vehicle called The Swimmer.
I feel like I've heard
Um,
of that.
it is quite possibly one of the most powerful movies because it really doesn't give itself away. Um, and the movie starts out bright and keeps on getting darker as the story gets darker in tone. And it's basically about this character Burt Lancaster plays, Ned Merrill, who shows up at a friend's house. They're having a good time. They hadn't seen him in a while. And he's talking about how he's going to swim all the way home through by using everybody's pool. Everyone that he starts out with likes him, but then we start finding things are not appearances are just deceiving because we start saying people he meets that he owes money to, that he might not have been faithful to his wife, neglected his kids, and then it just goes in a downward spiral for that. And I think this movie is the perfect metaphor for how we lie to people. By we dress well even though we might not afford to dress well. We buy cars that we can't afford and to try to keep up these appearances, but eventually the facade falls apart. And not in such a dramatic fashion as this movie, but it's just again a really powerful film. And Lancaster is great. Joan Rivers makes her first film appearance in this movie, and by the end of it, you don't know if you feel sorry for the main character or if he got everything that he's deserved by the way he lived his life. It's a very ambiguous film, and to be fair, I did read the short story in high school, but I had no idea there was a movie made of it. Grindhouse releasing, my least favorite company as of right now because they don't have good customer service, put out two really good editions of it. They put out a regular edition, and a few years later they did a special edition, and it's one of the few times I've double dipped on a film. But yeah, I think I would recommend this because the blockbuster I worked in was in suburbia, and at the time I thought suburbia was a lie in and of itself. And this movie again tore down the facade that people were living in. So highly recommend. It's just nice. Again, while people for putting dramas would probably put something like, what was a big drama in the late 90s?
Anything with Meryl Streep.
Yeah. She's made a lot of good movies. But I don't know. They would put out like the hit drama that came out instead of something like this on the list. And again, I when people ever ask me for movie recommendations, this is one I will always recommend to them.
Nice. I just added it to my watch list.
Yeah, you're never going to watch all the movies on your watch list.
That's not true.
It is true. You don't have the hours in the day. All right. What is your next pick category?
What have we've done? Horror. We've done drama.
We have sci-fi, comedy, cult, classic, foreign left.
Let's do classic.
All right, you can go first.
All right, let me see. This one I've got a little interesting thing that I found while looking up some movies for the classic category. Are you familiar with Haywood Wakefield?
No.
It's a company that specializes in like furniture and fabrics all from the mid-century. So right around like 40s 50s era. But um I saw this article on their website that says 30 of the most popular classic movies from the 1950s. And I was
Hey.
kind of going through these, seeing what was on here, and I was surprised to see at number 19, Kuruku, Beast of the Amazon.
No, no,
I was like, man,
no.
that is a really that is a really deep cut. And then I was even more surprised to see that the movie that I picked,
Okay, so you did not pick Karuku.
I did not know.
Okay, all right, all
The
right.
movie I picked is right after it at number 20, though, which was very surprising because I've always heard of this film regarded as like, kind of a really good film, much much better than Karuku. um, but my movie is from 1956, directed by John
Hey,
Ford. And so it is a Western at the same time. It is The Searchers.
ooh, I've never seen it.
Um, so this was actually one of the very first Blu-rays I ever bought. Um, I remember going on to Blu-ray.com and was kind of looking around at stuff on there, and it's kind of new to the Blu-ray scene. It took me, I would always feel like I'm super behind and like going to the next technology. So I was still on DVDs forever. So I started looking at these and I was like, oh, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this. And my brother, who is like always a step ahead from technology, is like, well, you don't want to just get everything on Blu-ray. Like, check how it rates and see if it's even worth the upgrade. Um, so I went on there to see their like top 100 rated Blu-rays, and the Searchers was always like, it fluctuated between 1 and 2 with a some release of Blade Runner. So I ended up getting it and um, watched it pretty much right away. So I had kind of grown up watching John Wayne movies. It stars John Wayne, Vera Miles, who was the lead in Psycho, um, and Natalie Wood. But I had grown up watching John Wayne movies with my dad. He would just watch them literally all day long, um, and they were just, you know, boring black and white piece of crap looking movies that I never was into. But we only had one TV, so that's what I was watching.
God damn it.
But putting this thing in, um, it was completely different. Um, I guess the little synopsis here is: as a Civil War veteran spends years searching for a young niece captured by, I'm going to change this word to Native Americans, his motivation becomes increasingly questionable. Um, so just looks wise, it's definitely one of the best looking like Technicolor movies that I've seen, even still to this day. Um, it's just got huge like sweeping landscapes, and for being a movie from the 50s, the color looks really good. The clarity on the master looks really good, and it's a lot of those movies can be boring, but this one I think just the presentation of it alone kind of makes it a little more watchable. Um, but as a Western goes, um, John Wayne's usually painted as like the hero, the cowboy hero, but in this one, kind of goes the other way, and you can kind of see that he's kind of like an undercover villain almost for the movie.
Okay.
Um, like the synopsis said, he's searching for his niece that was captured. Um, so he kind of goes out there looking for her, and he's out there for 5 years, and you eventually see that um, he's not super interested in finding his niece as much as he is just killing as many Native Americans as he can.
What a bastard.
I know, piece of shit. So yeah, it just kind of touches on, obviously there's a lot of like super racism in it. from John Wayne, kind of towards Native Americans. It kind of touches on, in these movies, Native Americans are always shown as like, brutal savages that just want to kill all the white people. But in this movie, it kind of shows it both ways where, um, some tribes are going and like murdering and kidnapping people, but there's some that are just trying to live in the land that, was theirs. Um, and while some of them are shown as like brutal savages, it's also showing that, the white people in the movie are no different. They're kind of going out and doing the same thing.
Uh,
Um, what's that?
it's funny that you mentioned it. On Thursday, my buddy, his kid, and I, we went to the Smithsonian Native American Museum,
Mm-hmm.
or as it should be renamed, the American Holocaust Museum,
Yeah.
because the atrocities that we did to them is unforgivable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there is also a part in there of Native Americans in pop culture and how they would sometimes use white actors to play Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we on this show we condemn American history and the treatment of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think this one just did a good job of kind of like, depicting both sides of it, kind of depicting John Wayne as like this, well, not John Wayne himself, but his character as, he's depicted as a hero in the sense that, um, in the beginning of the movie, he comes home from the Civil War a hero. And then at the end of the movie, he comes home again and he's considered a hero just because he, went out and killed a bunch of Native Americans. Um, but with that kind of shows that, how terrible of a person that he kind of is.
so why would you recommend this to people?
I think it's just kind of a, well, one, for the way that it looks, it's just a beautiful movie, and two, just kind of a different side of a John Wayne movie. A different side of a Western in general, I think. Um I just think there's more meaning behind this one than the typical, cowboys going to save the girl from the Native Americans. It's got more kind of beef to it, I guess. More to think about.
That's cool. I should watch that one as well. I like John Ford movies.
Hmm. Yeah, I need to watch more. He
Uh,
I was looking to see what else he did, and he's
there
directed like every single Western in the 50s.
there back in the DVD days. There was a collection of all his movies, and I almost bought it, but then I realized I'd much rather buy a bunch of horror films
Yeah.
instead.
Well, I have the set from, it's either Indicator, I think it's Indicator. One of the John Ford sets. I need to watch them.
Yeah, that one was Region B, so I do not have it.
Yet you're getting that player.
I am. Just gotta wait a little bit. I'm gonna probably get it this summer.
Nice.
Um, so my pick again was something that I did not watch until last Saturday. Um, so last Saturday I was going through my things and I found I had $100 gift card that I got for my birthday last year for Barnes and Noble, and I figured I should use it before it expires. I don't know if they expire or not. So I went to the closest Barnes and Noble to buy some Criterions. I ended up picking up four. I ended up getting a Hollywood Shuffle, Inland Empire, um, Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, and this one I had seen all the others before. This was a blind buy. I bought it because of the cover, and it had a bunch of 1950s rock stars on it, like Fats Domino, Little Richard, Eddie Cochran, and I'm like, okay. It was also a Jane Mansfield movie. And the only Mansfield movie I've ever seen was the one Seven released of that pseudo Mondo film that she did before she died.
Hmm.
So I always thought like she was a big ripoff of a wannabe Marilyn Monroe. So I had some dread going into it. And I watched it. It turned out to be one of the funniest movies I've seen in a while. Um, it's about this down and out talent manager who a mobster asked him to turn his girl into a star in 8 days. Um, he's an alcoholic. She wants to be a wife and mother and not really a singer. But the mob guy is just insane about her. Turns out her dad worked for the mobster, and since he was in prison, he was looking out for her. He also wanted to marry her. Um, I mean, the age difference was just kind of disgusting between the manager and the mobster as well. But turns out she can't sing, and then just little hijinks happen throughout it. Has a happy ending, but stylistically, it was. I think it might have been one of the first CinemaScope movies
Hmm.
because I think for a time most movies were full screen, and it starts out that way. And the other star of it, Tim Ewell, I think that's his name. Tom Ewell, yeah, Ewell. Walked on it, and then he kind of stretched out the screen to show the wonders of CinemaScope, and it was kind of funny and things that happened throughout it. And James Mansfield was great. She had perfect comedic timing. Um, she was a really good actress, and I don't know why her star suddenly declined. And then the music in this film was just great, from the song "The Girl Can't Help It" through all the other rock numbers, just fantastic. Um, it's a nearly 2 hour movie. No, it's 99 minutes. It felt like it was a half hour long because it was just that well paced. And again, another movie I never seen. Back when I worked in a video store, I would never have watched it because it wasn't my kind of movie. And now when I have a movie night again, this might be one of the films I show because that's what I want to share with people.
Mm-hmm.
To show that I'm more
Nice.
than to show that I'm more than horror and golden age erotica.
Yeah, this one is in my watch list already, and I am not sure why.
I saw that. I saw that. You probably saw Criterion put it out.
Maybe.
All right, let's go to
Cool.
our next pick. Choose what we have left.
Let's go to comedy.
All right, go first. Well, you're always going to go first, so
Yeah. This is probably one of my more known movies that I picked, but I had watched it recently and thought it was a good and a different kind of comedy, but I went with from 1985, Brewster's Millions. um, Directed by Walter Hill, who's known for The Warriors.
come out and play.
I don't know if he did. Did he do any kind of? I saw that he directed like Red Heat. Did he do any like comedies before? Or
Not really.
no? Um, Starring Richard Pryor and one of my favorites, John Candy. Um, the premise of this movie is it just sounds like something two guys were sitting around, just lit up the fattest J they found, and somebody just sat there and just let words fall out of their mouth, and this was them. Brewster is an aging minor league baseball player, stand to inherit $300 million if he can successfully spend $30 million in 30 days without anything to show for it and without telling anyone what he's up to. um, I'm assuming you've probably seen this.
I've seen Brewster's Millions, yeah.
Okay. Um, I just thought it was usually when I see I'm trying to get more familiar with Richard Pryor's movies. Um, before I kind of started watching his comedies, the only thing I knew him from was that Superman movie.
No.
Which I think
No.
was that 3 or 4
It
or
was
both.
three. It was three. It was
Okay.
three.
Um, so yeah, I've been kind of like going back. I had like randomly seen some of his stand-ups pop up on YouTube, so I started watching them, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy's way funnier than um, I guess thought he was." I don't know, but
Yeah, watch Stir Crazy with him and Gene Wilder.
okay, I think I have that one.
It's on
Um,
Paramount Plus
okay.
and Silver
Um,
Creek.
I
And
just thought it was a good, more of like a situational comedy where there's not like tons of like punchlines and gags and stuff like that. It's just, Richard Pryor constantly getting put into uncomfortable situations in order to figure out ways to spend this money. And, I don't know if it's just his facial expressions or what, but it just makes the movie um, hilarious. Um, I was looking up a couple things about it and I saw that it's actually adapted from a novel from 1902
okay,
of the same name. And I guess this movie's been adapted like eight or nine different times. Um,
I just remember that it constantly played on TBS back in the day.
yeah, I can see that. Um, but yeah, just um, there's touches of trying to get deeper thoughts of like just exactly what capitalism does and wealth. You can try to get rid of all your money, but all it's going to do is really just get you more money. So like wealth begets more wealth kind of stuff. But um seeing him kind of try to sidestep that and actually get rid of all of his money, I just thought was a really good uh good story plot, and just the way he does it was just funny. The I think my favorite scene was when he um runs for the mayor of New York City. And his like whole campaign pitch is for voters to choose like none of the above, so that he can't like accidentally win and kind of profit from being the mayor and ruin this whole thing. um
Now I want to watch it again. I don't.
yeah.
I gotta find out where I can stream it.
Yeah, just a good kind of just sit back, relax, kind of like a cozy comedy movie. um Brief little cameo by Rick Moranis. um and I think my only gripe with it is that I wish there was more John Candy. He doesn't have a ton of screen time, but it's
I
pretty
mean,
funny when he's in there.
here's the thing: when you have that much, when you have Richard Pryor in a movie, it's a Richard Pryor movie.
Right, yeah.
You can't have other comedians in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, it's sometimes the lesser roles are better because they're more remembered.
Mm.
They're more
Yeah, I
memorable.
don't know if I don't know if John Candy's character is in the book. I thought I had read something that um his character was unwritten and he kind of came in and did some scenes himself, and that's what was in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I gotta watch that again. Hopefully, I can stream it somewhere. All right. So your movie was about giving away money. My comedy movie is about getting laid.
Ooh.
It's about three high school guys who just want to get some tail. Unfortunately for one of them, he is the last American virgin. So this might be one of my favorite teen sexploitation films from the 80s. I remember me and a friend went to see it, and as my mom was driving us there, she asked us what movie we were going to see, and we told her some movie whose name I don't remember, but we knew it was PG. We bought our tickets for that, and because the movie started at the same time, we snuck into The Last American Virgin. When my the movie we were going to go see was called Max Devil. We told my mom we were seeing was Max Devlin Returns.
Hmm.
Um, I did not know my parents went to see it the night before. So my mom tested me, asked us questions about the movie that we couldn't answer, and I was grounded. because I lied. You know what? It was worth it because this is actually one of my favorite movies, as I said earlier. It's directed by Bose Davidson and was produced by my favorite company, Canon Films, the Golden Globus guys.
Hmm.
And this is actually a remake of the movie that made them all a lot of money in Israel, the first um, installment of the Lemon Popsicle series that our
Hmm.
friend Anson says is is way better than this. Since I have never seen the Israeli ones, I can't compare. But this movie is pure 80s with an amazing soundtrack. Um, some of the worst dialogue. But what gets it? So the movie's about this guy named Gary. He hangs out with David and Rick. Rick is the stud of the group. David's the fat rich kid, and Gary works as a pizza delivery guy who somehow is always borrowing the pizza delivery vehicle. Gary is in love. He saw this girl named Karen and instantly fell in love with her. So in love that he started stalking her. He went to her place, let the air out of her moped or moped or Vespa, and then pulled up and to see if he could help. And he's like, "You have flat tires." He goes, "Oh no, what can we do?" He's like, "I don't know, nothing." And he offers her a ride to school. He then asks her if she has a boyfriend. She says no. And then he tells her he's going to this party. And she goes, "Oh, I'm going to a party on Friday." Of course, the party's at David's house. And when he gets there, David delivers the bad news that Rick is getting with her. He then spends the most of the rest of the movie trying to prevent Rick from having sex with her. One of the ways that he did that was they all went to see a hooker, and they all fucked the hooker. um, and they all ended up getting crabs. It also has one of my favorite lines of dialogue when David's about to fuck her. He starts asking her questions. She goes, "Are you here to interview me or to fuck me?" um, Eventually, Rick does have sex with her in the most romantic place possible, the football field, as Gary watches and tries. Guess what happens next? Guess what happens? Guess what happens? Guess what happens to Karen? Guess what happens to Karen?
um, she gets the crabs.
No, the crabs they are cured of. They
Oh,
are cured
okay.
of the crabs. No, she gets pregnant. And then Rick said it isn't his. He did all the things an asshole would say. And then Gary steps in. They're supposed to go on a class trip skiing, and Gary skips out to help raise the money for Karen's abortion, and he thinks they're going out, which leads to one of the most tragic endings in film history, where he goes back to the party for Karen's birthday and sees her and Rick making out. He bought her a heart necklace engraved with a message to her on there. Some 80s pop song was playing that gave sad emotional vibes to it. And then Gary drove home crying at the end, and we assume he went and blew his brains out.
Hmm.
Um, what's funny I watch this movie like every 6 months. MVD just put out a great release of it, much better than the old Olive films, which had no special features. I always thought that there was sexual chemistry between Rick and Gary, and I started thinking, all right, it might be a better movie if Gary's in love with Rick instead of Karen, and he's just putting all his energy into her, so Rick can't have her. And it turns out the two lead actors, Lawrence Monsoon and Steve Atten, were gay in real life, and I'm like, now there's a better movie.
Yeah.
I don't want to see this movie remade, but if someone did it, Do it. Tell that story.
Yeah, this one has been on my. I have always heard of this movie, and it's still one that I've never seen.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorites from my teens and back in the '90s. My buddy Doug and I were starting to do a fanzine, and I think we'd had one issue published, and we were working on our second, which was just all about teen sexploitation. So we ran to every video store to find like everything from Porky's to fraternity vacation to private school for girls. And basically, we were just gonna do like little recaps of all these films. We never finished the second issue, and this is one of my favorite subgenres of '80s cinema.
Nice.
And I would just recommend it to people because if they haven't seen it, they need to lose their virginity to this film. Not their virginity, but their virginity of not seeing Last American Virgin.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I got to do that.
Yeah, you do, and it's been like 40 years too late.
And
All right, what is your next? What category do we want to do next?
let's do sci-fi.
I am dying to hear what your choice is.
Mine's another old one.
Okay.
From 1956.
Ooh.
Directed by Fred Wilcox, who directed The Secret Garden and two Lassie movies.
Well, I've never directed two Lassie movies.
Yeah, he's better than you, obviously.
Yep.
I went with Forbidden Planet.
That's a great movie.
Stars Leslie Nielsen in a much different role than we're used to seeing him in. Walter Pidgeon and Anne Francis. And the story essentially follows Leslie Nielsen and his crew from the starship C-57D to a distant planet where they're searching for the crew of a different spaceship that's been missing for 20 years. And when they get there, they're kind of welcomed by Walter Pidgeon's character. What was his name? Dr. Morbius.
I don't remember. I haven't seen the movie in about a decade and a half.
Yeah, Dr. Morbius. This whole planet, it's just Dr. Morbius, his wife, and Dr. Morbius's, or not his wife, his daughter, and his creation, Robbie the robot.
Greatest robot beside the robot from Lost in Space.
Who was apparently copied from Robbie the robot.
Yes. I think Robbie the robot actually appeared on an episode of Lost in Space as well.
So they're kind of like spending time on here trying to kind of turns into like a sci-fi mystery, kind of trying to figure out what happened to the crew, not really believing Dr. Morbius's story. They kind of find out that there was another species there whose civilization was wiped out. They're trying to figure out what happened there and if it was Dr. Morbius. But just really, really good storytelling. I'd learned that it's like a space version of Shakespeare's The Tempest, where it's kind of a crew kind of lands in a unwelcomed and kind of strange place to figure out what happened to their friends. But I think for the time, it just had really good special effects. It had a really good score. It kind of paved the way for sound effects that were going to be used for sci-fi movies from then on. And it just had some cool ideas in it, some cool technologies. Robbie the robot would be sweet to have around. Could just create literally anything. 20 tons of lead or a silk dress, whatever you want.
What year did this movie take place in?
That I don't remember. I feel like it did say it.
Let me just ask this: did it already pass in our history?
um, man, I don't remember. I want to say that I feel like it was like the 2030s or something.
And
I can't remember though.
we still don't have intergalactic travel.
Yeah. Yeah, and their spaceship was just like an actual UFO. Just like a saucer.
Same thing in the original Lost in Space.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, just really good. It was really cool seeing Leslie Nielsen kind of before, he
You,
turns into this like parody slapstick kind of actor. Um,
hey, come on, he was great in Dracula Dead and Loving It.
he was. I love him, but it was cool to see him in a serious role, but there were still times when, he makes little comments or little jokes where you can kind of see like, oh, he's gonna be that later. Um, but yeah, just a cool old sci-fi movie. I did learn that his character, um, whose name was Commander John A. Adams, was apparently the prototype for Captain James T. Kirk. I thought that was pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, nerdy Leslie Nielsen. Um, but yeah, I think it's a genre. Well, not a genre, but I think it's a time in the genre that not a lot of people really get into because it's a lot of it's like hokey, a lot of it's kind of like B movie territory. But when I saw this one, I just felt like it was kind of different. I felt like it kind of took things to the next level, um, and just seemed kind of really grand in scale.
Yeah, I need to pull out my DVD of it and rewatch it.
Mm.
I love that movie. I never upgraded to Blu-ray on it. I don't know if you even know if there is a Blu-ray on it of it.
I have a Blu-ray of it.
All right, I'll
I
have
have the Blu-ray ripped on my Plex.
Ooh, I still have it. I still have yet to go on there. I need to do that.
Yeah.
All right. So my sci-fi pick is the only film that has been on this list from the beginning.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. So when I was a little kid, I was obsessed with Planet of the Apes, even though I had seen none of the movies. I loved the Saturday morning cartoon where the guy who was the voice of Fred Flintstone was the voice of the uh gorilla general. I also had seen a couple episodes of the TV show, but my main way of watching it or interacting with it was through action figures or coloring books. I only had one Planet of the Apes coloring book, and it was based on the 1974 conquest of the Planet of the Apes. By the time I was 8, I finally watched it. I watched the entire series on Channel 7's 4 o'clock movie, where they did Ape Week, which preceded Godzilla Week. They were the two best weeks for a kid because we'd come home immediately and just watch those movies. And I think Conquest of the Planet of the Apes is my favorite in the series.
Hmm.
It goes it goes Conquest, Planet, Beneath, Escape, and Battle. But this film couldn't exist without Escape. So in the third film, Cornelius and his wife and one other ape used Charlton Heston's rocket to go back in time and come out in early 70s, I think San Francisco. At the end, the government has to kill them all and their newly born baby because they know the future that eventually apes are going to overtake humans. Uh, Cornelius leaves the baby in the care of Ricardo Montalban. His character's name was Armando. He ran a circus. And the last line was the baby talk, the baby chimp talking.
Hmm.
This movie takes place in early 1990s. A virus has happened where all cats and dogs died. And
No.
yeah, so people started getting chimps as pets. But they also realized they were quick learners, so they made them all servants. and then they made them all slaves. And somehow America has become a police state.
That
So
doesn't seem real.
so somehow this kid Caesar, he gets separated from Armando, who is taken by the police and interrogated and then killed. Well, he wasn't killed. He jumped out a window before he killed the police kill him. And then Caesar leads a revolt. The apes start exploding and killing every human in sight. And that's how the Planet of the Apes were born. To be fair, I would always recommend this movie because it was dark and nihilistic, but I had only seen the theatrical cut, and on the current Blu-ray that was released probably 15 years ago, had the unrated cut, which has the apes killing the governor instead of Caesar's speech of compassion and bringing hope to the darkness of the world. I like nihilistic endings. The first one has one when Taylor sees the Statue of Liberty and realizes the planet has been nuked.
Mm-hmm.
The second one with the world blowing up, and this one with the apes really taking over. I know one of the current Planet of the Apes films already kind of copied this movie but I've never seen any of the modern ones, so I don't know which one it is. But
Yeah.
I mean, the only downfall of it, most of the ape masks look like really cheap, and you can tell the mouth can't move. But Roddy McDowall was great at playing his former character's son. But just a fantastic movie, and like I watched it yesterday morning, and I was at that moment I became just as obsessed with Planet of the Apes as I was back when I was a kid, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just a great movie that paints a picture basically to society today. And I know back when it was made, it was probably talking about the uprising of the anti-war movement or, slavery. But I think it has a more impactful feel today because how racism is rampant and how things can really quickly get out of control.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in a post January 6th world, um, basically the message of the movie is don't be an asshole and treat everyone equally. But I love it. And when I worked at the video stores, I somehow worked all 5 of the Planet of the Apes movies in my recommendations at Blockbuster and at
Nice.
movies before movies fired me for showing the original Pink Panther film instead of their videotape of previews and other things that people should buy in the store. I was so sick of that thing.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch these. I've seen the first one, I've seen the Tim Burton one, and I've seen the first one of the new ones.
The Tim Burton one does not exist on this planet. It's been retconned out. So let's not talk about
Yeah.
that one.
But yeah, I don't know why they've just never been on my radar for some reason. It might just be because of what you said. The masks look super fake or whatever. But yeah, I need to go back and watch them.
All right, we have 3 categories left. I want to hold action to our last one. So
Okay.
foreign or cult.
Let's do foreign.
Okay. What is your pick?
My pick is it's another oldie. And I chose it because it has had many iterations throughout its time, but I feel like this one it's definitely different. It's from a different time and kind of tells a somewhat different story, but from Jean Cocteau. I went
Oh,
with From 1946, I went with Beauty and the Beast.
It's a great film.
Yeah.
Before you get into it, fun fact: Jean Cocteau, his name was the basis for the classic 4AD band, the Cocteau Twins.
Ooh, nice. Were they twins
No,
named
no, but
Cocteau?
their music was great. I feel privileged that I did get to see them live once.
Hmm.
All right, that's neither here nor there. Go and talk about Beauty and the Beast.
Um, it was one that I had seen probably close to 10 years ago now. Obviously I grew up with the Disney cartoon, which, for my generation is like a classic. Everyone's seen it, dozens and dozens of times, but I had never seen I guess a a iteration of it that was truer to the source material. Um, so when I watched this was when I was kind of first getting into foreign films that weren't, kung fu movies. That was pretty much my only exposure to foreign films at that point. But I saw that it was Beauty and the Beast, watched a trailer from Criterion. I think back then it was just on DVD, but was just really interested in its look at first. The costumes are, especially the Beast, just real kind of creepy looking. Looks just like a massive man, super long arms. It just looked like something I wanted to see how it played out, a live action version of a cartoon. Um, so then watching it does kind of have a similar, basis. The girl, I think it's the same. Yeah, Belle, um, goes to this castle, meets the Beast. Um, Eventually kind of gets into his personality, but isn't attracted to him. She's kind of attracted to this other guy, but doesn't want to marry him. And throughout the course of the movie, it's kind of more similar to um, maybe like a Romeo and Juliet, where it's, I guess, just one of them dies, but kind of just a more tragic telling of it. Um, Kind of, death, rebirth, um, because of love, but at the same time, kind of more shallow in a sense where, this personality that she loves was finally put into a face that she could also love. Um, I don't remember in the Disney one. I'm assuming you've seen the Disney one.
I've never seen the Disney one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Man, I need to put a recording of you on my soundboard here of you saying how have you never seen that?
No,
Um,
you shouldn't. I am fully admit I'm not a big fan of 90s Disney movies. I mean,
yeah.
I was grown by that point, and
Hey, I
it was
still watch cartoons to this day.
I still watch cartoons, but I was growing up. I was always more a fan of Disney live action than I was of Disney animation,
Okay.
and I think I realized my mom took me to the Oak Park High School production of Robin Hood, and I was really stunned that none of them were a fox or a lion. My whole world got destroyed at that moment.
Yeah, I mean, those I grew up with those. My generation did, and it's I don't know. They're entertaining as a kid. They put all the songs in them. They put characters that you like, but I don't know. Watching this, I thought it was more interesting seeing kind of the non-kid version of the story,
Well,
kind of a more fantastical, surreal kind of version.
you got to give it up to the French for doing that by because remember a lot of these fairy tales are not nice.
Hmm.
They're they're brutal, and that's what this film is. It's a reminder of that these Disneyfied stories weren't written that way.
Mm-hmm.
Nor do they have singing candlesticks and spoons.
And teapots.
Yeah, yeah. No, I've seen that movie. I saw it in high school or in college in a film class. It was college. I was in a film class, and I fell in love with it there. I own it on Blu-ray. I have not opened it yet,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I've got that one too.
I've been meaning to.
Yeah, this is one that I've been trying to talk my wife into watching, but she just doesn't want to read while she's watching a movie.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of horror movies. I'll watch the dubbed versions of them,
Mm-hmm.
especially like spaghetti westerns or kung fu films.
Yeah.
But weirdly enough, my well, where this is foreign, so our both of our films are foreign. Mine is a Hong Kong film from 1994. Um, yep, 1994. I don't think it came out in America until 95. And that year, my parents got me for my birthday a year film. I got a membership to the Detroit Film Theater, which was in the Detroit Institute of Arts. So I got to see free movies for a year.
Hmm.
Most of the money that I would have spent on tickets went to parking. But that year I saw Wong Kar Wai's Chungking Express for the first time. My buddy Porno Bart went with me because he was basically saying Tarantino highly recommends this film. And I can see why. It's a beautiful story. There's two stories in it. They both take place in a Chungking district, which is kind of like a series of restaurants and stores really close together, kind of like the mall in that zombie bio zombie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's two story. Both of them involve police officers. One is a police officer who's been out of a relationship with the girl that he was in love with and is trying to eat expired fruit for because of how long, basically based on the, I believe based on the dates that they have been broken up. And I can't remember the actor's name, but Brigitte Lin, who was in such great films as The Swordsman 2, Bride with White Hair, basically plays, she is part of a crime organization where she has rounded up either Pakistani or Indian people to smuggle stuff out of the country. And at some point, she meets the cop, and they have this like flirty relationship. And then she realizes that the Indian or Pakistani people double crossed her and have stolen it stuff from her. She realizes that her life is about to be probably cut short. Um, I can't remember since it's been a while since I've seen this one, that she might have spent the night with the cop and she was gone by the time they woke up. Um, and then that story was over. But the second one is the one that really attracted me. Another police officer, also dealing with a breakup with a flight attendant, goes to his favorite the same Chungking restaurant where the other guy hung out.
Mm.
And this girl worked there, played by the beautiful Faye Wong, and she starts sneaking into his apartment to clean it up. And he kind of finds her annoying, but and I really don't want to give the ending of this one away because it's such a great story. But what's also great about that's really great about the whole movie was the use of music. Um, During the second story, we hear Beach Boys, the song "On a Summer Day." I can't remember how it goes, but one of their classic songs. But then Fei Wong, who was like a Cantonese pop star, sings a song by the California Dreamin', and then also she sings in Chinese the Cantonese version of Dreams by the Cranberries, which
Hmm.
is just delightful. And this is the movie that made me fall in love with Wong Kar-wai. I had then sought out every one of his films. Um, Great director, but this film is just a beautiful masterpiece. It is in the Wong Kar-wai box set released by Criterion. I prefer the previous Blu-ray release because I think it was they did some changes to it color
Hmm.
wise, so I prefer the original one. But still a great movie.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I always hear
How
great
could you
things
have not
about
have seen
that.
Chungking Express?
I just haven't. Okay,
Girl,
that has the guy from and I hate that this is the movie that
Zhang
I'm asking, but
Zhang Chi, yeah, Tony Long,
yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah. Tony Long's a great actor, and
Nice.
he was one of the mainstay Wong Kar Wai players.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
All right, let us go to cult.
Cult.
So
Um,
let me give you my definition of a cult film. One that wasn't very successful when it came out, but then built a huge audience afterwards.
yeah, that's how I view it.
Okay, so what is your pick?
My pick, well, the one that I chose, is one that I always recommend to people, but when I looked it up, we had a cutoff of 2005, and the one that I had originally chosen was released in 2006. So I was like, son of a bitch. But I knew that there was another great cult movie with a very similar name. So I went with that. And I haven't seen it in a little while, but I remember it being just out of control bonkers. I went with from 1984 Repo Man.
John Wayne is a fag.
Very quotable. Um, yeah, the one I had originally picked was Repo, the Genetic Opera.
I don't think that ever truly became a cult film.
It was on like all the lists I was looking up.
Okay.
It's a cult for me.
It,
Um,
it's funny because Ogre from Skinny Puppy was in that movie, and on Wednesday night, as my friend and his kid and I were walking through downtown Silver Spring, there were goth kids everywhere, and by kids I mean middle aged. There were some, and I saw that Skinny Puppy was playing, and all I could think about was all these people were there trying to relive their goth glory days, wearing outfits that they probably haven't put on in years, and probably should have kept that way.
yeah.
But it was so cute because I did see this one guy wearing a KMFDM shirt walk up to these girls wearing all black, and I'm pretty sure he was trying to pick up on them or pick them up because he was saying, I'm just going to follow you two because it looks like we're all going to the same place.
Ooh, not a good
The
start.
place was right. And then he said he didn't know where they were going. The place was right across the street from where we were. There's no way you could miss it. It was a field of people with thinking I wear black on the outside because I'm black on the inside.
How'd they take it? Did they go along with
I
it, or did
wasn't
they?
paying. I got a phone call at that time. All right,
Nice.
so Repo Man, Emilio Estevez.
The great Emilio Estevez as Automatus.
Emilio.
um, Also starred Harry Dean Stanton and Tracy Walter, best known as Bob from Batman, obviously. um, but yeah, just a really like, I'll read the synopsis here. It's just a down and out young punk gets a job working with a seasoned repo man. But what awaits him in his new career is a series of outlandish adventures revolving around aliens, the CIA, and a most wanted 64 Chevy. Um, Someone seeing this on the shelves in the video store, whatever they think it's about, it's not. Um, Kind of goes in a lot of different directions. Kind of like a cosmic, kind of sci-fi kind of deal. Also like a social commentary kind of. Um, Not a political movie, but kind of speaks on the politics of the time. I think it could possibly be called like the movie version of Alex Jones. um, just tons going on. It's a really good adventure, really good soundtrack. Um,
You're forgetting about my favorite part of this movie is how everything at the grocery store they work at is generic.
yeah, yep.
And who played Emilio's parents in it?
Um, I've got it open here. Let me see if it says. It's only got his character is the only one it has last names for.
But weren't they watching like a religious show the entire time?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Otto Dad, Jonathan Hugger. This was his only movie. Yeah, and I had kind of read before that was kind of like there was a lot in this movie about kind of like what Reagan was doing to the country, kind of taking it more conservative, and a lot of the characters were kind of on that level, but at the same time, kind of like questioning the CIA kind of stuff.
Um,
Um,
it,
was
it
it
was,
ever?
I'm
Go
sorry,
ahead.
it was a punk rock fairy tale.
Yes, in every sense of the word. I was gonna say, was it ever confirmed that Quentin Tarantino got the idea for his briefcase in Pulp Fiction from the
I,
trunk of this car?
no, I mean it's a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
The MacGuffins have been around for decades, for in literature for centuries, in movies since the beginning. But he might have been influenced by it. But we knew what was
Mhm.
in the back of that in the trunk of the car. It was an alien.
But
um,
yeah, just a wild ride, literally. The ending, I remember just watching the screen like, what the fuck?
it,
Um,
it's funny. Harry Dean Stanton kind of sort of reprised his character from this film on an episode of Chuck.
oh really?
Yeah, where he played a repo man. It got
Nice.
really meta for a second there, but I loved it.
Yeah, nice.
No, this is this it's a fun movie. I never saw this movie until I got to college, but I met a kid named Scott because we were like the only two punks that met each other, and I'm just gonna use the word we were total utter posers, and I hang out in his room one night, and he goes, "You ever see this movie called Repo Man?" I am like, "No," and he put on the soundtrack, and I fell in love with the soundtrack because I already knew one of the songs from it, "Suicidal Tendencies Institutionalized." I'm
Mhm.
not crazy, institutionalized. I wanted a Pepsi, just one Pepsi. You wouldn't give it to me. Institutionalized. You're driving me crazy. Institutionalized. But the soundtrack also had songs like Pablo Picasso is Dead, just great. And when I finally saw the movie, it all the songs from that soundtrack just made sense.
Mhm.
And I am Alex Cox. This was one of his many masterpieces, and I love it so much.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was definitely ahead of its time for coming out in 1984.
I
Um,
think it came out the right time.
Well,
I
I just
mean,
mean a lot of the ideas in it, the
oh,
commentary in it.
that's the way a movie should be.
Hmm.
But no, Repo Man's great. I hope someone puts that on 4K eventually.
Yeah, I know it's on Blu-ray from Criterion right now. I feel like it's got to be one of the next ones they bump up because I'm pretty sure it had a 4K scan when they released that Blu-ray.
I hope so. Yeah, I had the first pressing of it, which is basically just a cardboard box, and it's getting destroyed. I've
Hmm.
thought about repurchasing in just a regular standard case one of these days,
Yeah.
but I'm gonna wait till like 4K gets announced. All right, so my cult classic. This one's tough for me because I hated it when it first came out. Absolutely hated it. So I'm going to give it away what it is right now. I was a big fan of Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks to me was the greatest show of the late 80s, early 90s. It got abruptly canceled. David Lynch then went and made Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which coincidentally also had Harry Dean Stanton in it.
Uh-huh.
And I was hoping it was going to be a conclusion to the TV series. It wasn't. It was about the last days of Laura Palmer. I felt I was so ripped off that I think at this point I disavowed that I was ever going to see a David Lynch movie again. Thankfully, I got over it pretty quickly, but I then started rewatching Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, especially when the DVD came out. So this was a film that I would have never recommended back in my video store days.
Hmm.
I'm just going to preface that. But as I watched it as I got older, I realized this film is a masterpiece. It might be the best thing David Lynch has ever done. Um, because what he told was the story of a girl who was constantly getting sexually abused by her father. And the character of Bob, was he real or was he just the manifestation of all of our evils? Or was she something that she psychologically created to make her think that it was somebody else because she couldn't live with what her father was doing to her? Now, there were some mystic points in it of this movie, like Heather Graham's character reappearing in Laura Palmer's bed, writing your diary, tell everyone that Dale is trapped in the Black Lodge, or things with David Bowie's character, and things at the beginning of the movie when Teresa Russell was murdered. I think Teresa Russell, yeah. But the movie is just so fucking frightening. Ray Wise, who plays her father, should have gotten an Academy Award of how intense and how crazed he was in this film. Like, there's one scene where the family is having dinner and he asked Laura if she washed her hands. And then it starts devolving to him going on about her having lovers, and which is weird because he already knew that she was a hooker on the side. But just this way he made the series seem better and darker with this film. And wow, I could probably go on for 2 hours about it because it's such a beautiful film and it's a tragic film, and it it gives you hope that kind of the return took away from you. I mean, it gave the closure to Laura Palmer at the end. But it wasn't the movie I wanted when it came out, but it was the movie that I am very happy to call a film that I would recommend to everybody and anyone. Even if they haven't seen the series,
Hmm.
they will take a lot away from the movie that they wouldn't. I mean, yeah, you don't need to see the series for this. You might have to have someone fill you in on some things, but for the most part, not at all. You don't need
Yeah.
it all. Because basically, Kyle MacLachlan is really only in a few scenes. He didn't want to be in this movie, but eventually he decided just to film probably on set for a day or two.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't seen that yet. Um, Sounds like one that we should talk about sometime, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Brian ever gets out of the hole that he's dug himself into. We'd ask him, but I know we're talking about next week, but we will get to that. We will get to that. All right. I am getting tired and I'm getting sleep drunk. Let's go on to our last one, action. What is your pick?
My pick is um it is from 1984. It is foreign, so you know it's directed by John Woo. Um and it's one of his lesser known movies that I had seen recently. It's called Heroes Shed No Tears.
Never seen that one.
So this one, um, I'll read a little synopsis here. The Thai government hires a group of Chinese mercenaries to capture a powerful drug lord from the Golden Triangle. The mercenaries manage to capture the drug lord, but soon find themselves pursued by his forces and the forces of a bitter Thai officer. The Chinese mercenaries are vastly outnumbered, and as their numbers begin to dwindle, their desperation pulls them into a corner as their enemies close in on them. And that is literally all the story you get. It is a 93-minute movie. I think 92 minutes are uh, gunfight scene after gunfight scene, just nonstop, relentless, um, super gory, super kind of creative and cool looking, like practical effects. Um, Kind of reminded me of a maybe like Expendables kind of, but with even less story than that. Um, and this one was apparently kind of what started John Woo on his path of just,
What year did this
guns,
come out?
guns, guns. It says 1984, but I read that it was
Okay.
actually filmed before A Better Tomorrow, but wasn't released until after.
For some reason, I thought you said 1994.
Oh no. um, but yeah, just like a wild ride. It's, if you're looking for deep story or any kind of character development, this is not your movie. But if you just want to put something on and just watch an action movie, pretty much capture the bad guy, fight your way out, this is your movie.
That's what I do every Friday night on stage.
Yeah. Capture the bad guy.
I'd fight for the laugh.
Yeah, it's just it's not stylized like his other movies. It's not, there's no doves. Just it's in a jungle trying to get home and just nonstop.
I have never seen that movie with my John Woo films.
Mm-hmm.
If it has no Chow Yun Fat, I go no thanks.
The main in it was pretty good. I don't know if he's been the lead in any other movies, but he's definitely a guy you see and you're like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy in movies.
That guy, I know that guy.
I'm
He's
pretty
the guy.
sure I'm pretty sure in Lethal Weapon 4 he was the guy who brought Jet Li to America to take out Riggs and Murtaugh. But yeah, just I had never heard of this. I didn't know it was a John Woo movie. I saw it on a sale on a 88 Films website once and just happened to grab it, and it struck me as what pulled me in was the cover is, this army guy. He's got like a huge machine gun in his hand. He's got, you know, the bullet uh strings like around his chest, and then he's got like a baby attached to his back. So I saw that and I was like, bingo, I gotta have this one. But yeah, check it out.
All right, I'm going to. All right, hold on. I'm writing something real quick. So my pick, again, I already had something picked out for this, and I I watched it again yesterday, and then I started going into my movie room, and like a video store, I started perusing the shelves, and I'm like, huh, I haven't watched this movie in forever. And this was a film that was always something I would recommend when it was out on VHS. And I watched it last night. I'm like, ah, fuck, I gotta change my action pick. It is from
Yes.
1981. It is the Abel Ferrara classic, Miss 45.
Hmm. Haven't seen it. I have definitely heard of it.
And basically it's a revenge-o-matic about it's about a revenge-o-matic about this mute girl named Thana who got raped twice in one day.
Nice.
She killed her second rapist and kept his 45, and then started killing out, and she started going out and killing men that she thought were sexually abusing other women. And much like contemporaries like Charles Bronson and Death Proof, not Death Proof, Death Wish,
Mhm.
um, sorry, Death Wish, she goes on a vengeance spree, but unlike them, they only had, unlike Bronson, he only had a certain group of people that he was going after, the people who killed his wife and raped his daughter. She starts going after every man, and eventually, um, at a work party, she starts killing everybody
Hmm.
after her boss sexually harasses her. And what makes it again so compelling is the lead character can't speak. So we have no idea what she's going through as she is going through her things. All we rely on are her facial expressions, and it's a beautiful movie. And the last 15 minutes are just gut wrenching, bullet ridden. Um, her boss, she works for a designer, fashion designer. He's having a Halloween party. Um, she's wearing a nun outfit. He takes her upstairs, starts playing with her, moving the dress up, moving his hands up her legs, and he discovers the 45. She just takes it out and blasts him in the head. Everyone in the party hears that, and she goes downstairs, or people start coming up, and she's heading downstairs, and she starts killing every man in sight. It's just barbaric melee of bullets.
Hmm.
And it was so beautifully orchestrated. Um, I'm not, I mean, this movie's over 40 years old now. She does die in the end, but it's interesting because what she's doing, she thinks is right because of the way, she, the horrible things that have happened to her. But does she take it too far? That I can't answer because one, men are pigs. And in the settings of New York City in the early 80s, it was just a really bad time where sexual harassment and crime happened on every corner. And I can't imagine, someone going through that without becoming extremely broken,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they have no voice and couldn't even yell for help. So it's still a movie that I think is worth seeing. It was last released on Drafthouse Films on Blu-ray. Since they're gone, I'm pretty sure it's out of print. I'm hoping that it might be one of the secret titles in November from Vinegar Syndrome.
Mm. Yeah, I was just gonna ask who put this one out. I feel like I remember seeing somebody post it somewhere, but I was trying to look for it. I don't see any release available for it.
Yeah, it was Draft House Films, and I mean they originally released Miami Connection. They also released the Australian film Wake and Fright.
Mm.
Just phenomenal, just phenomenal. And Abel Ferrara, who I would say is probably one of my favorite filmmakers, from his first movie Nine Lives of a Wet Pussy to The Driller Killer. This what the fuck is it called? Um, the
Bad
Bad
Lieutenant.
which she co-wrote with him, the main actress.
Hmm.
This film, Zoe Lund. Um, to one of some of his more recent films, like with William Dafoe, about the end of the world, 444. But and The Addiction. I mean, he's a great filmmaker and takes us into different places. So yeah, I this one is a film I always recommend. It's a difficult one to show people on movie nights because it is just so dark.
Yeah.
And I have good news for us. Brian Baldwin is free. Free. Brian is free from being trapped.
Hey,
Brian, is that you?
it's me. Why is my picture not up there?
Because your video is not on.
Let's see here. Ah, there I am.
Brian, we've been worried about you for the
Hello.
past couple of weeks because I was telling Matt how you were trying to dig a hole from your house to the Grindhouse video, and you've been stuck underground.
How did you know? Speaking of Grindhouse, I went there today, and one of the employees.
After you freed yourself, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
All right. We gotta keep
one of
keep the storyline going. We gotta keep the storyline going.
one of the guys that I talk with a lot up there, he's actually leaving. He's moving to Wisconsin.
Ew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
doing that
I was
for?
like, well, he just said basically like there's not enough hours to be had at the store,
Mm.
and stuff like that, and he's got a better gig kind of lined up out there, pretty much doing the same thing, but I guess the story he's going to be working at involves a lot more, not only boutique movies, but also a lot of like your specialty toys and stuff like that. I don't really delve into the toy stuff, so I don't know enough about it to drop any companies or anything. But yeah, I mean, he says it's bittersweet. You know, he loves working there, of course, but
Nice.
Cool.
yeah.
So we saw that you picked some stuff up. What did you pick up?
I did. This one I was hesitant on. I've like went back and forth the past few times I've been there on whether or not to pick it up, but maybe you guys can tell me. Lover's Lane from Arrow. It's like a, huh?
I've never seen it.
I think I can't find the exact year, but I think it's like late '90s, early 2000s, '99 MGM film. Um, I was hesitant because I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I've sort of been burned a little bit lately with some of these blind buys from Arrow, and especially when you're going into, you know, late '90s, early 2000s. I mean, you're kind of you're treading on thin ice as it is, you know?
Yep.
But I decided to go for it. I picked up. Let's see, this is VSA number 33, Dog Tags.
I'm
So I'm
sorry.
happy to. I'm excited. It's been a while since I've watched any schlocky action. Is it not any good?
It's okay. But compared to like the Damata, I think Damata, the three Filipino action films that Severin released, this one was probably at about 25 minutes too long. If it was a crisp 90 minutes, it would have been a great film. But it has some good. It has some good double crosses in there, and some good honorable deaths.
Holy shit! Yeah, it's 111 minutes.
Yeah,
I already know exactly what I'm getting into now, just solely based on that. Okay. I got the 4K of Freeway 2.
Ooh,
Pick that up. Yeah.
naughty.
Naughty. I loved Freeway. Whenever VS released it, that was actually the first time I had seen it. That was a good one.
I think I prefer Freeway 2, Confessions of a Trick Baby.
Mhm.
We'll talk about that one in a couple weeks.
Okay. I got a couple more here from Code Red. I got Devilfish because I've always wanted to watch this. I'm not a huge fan of Code Red releases because if I remember correctly, none of them come with subtitles, and I am a subtitle. I have to have them, but we'll see. Maybe the audio is good enough in here where I won't need it, but I doubt it. And then I got I have wanted to get these for like ever. But I kept holding off. I'm like, oh, they'll come out with a box set. And knowing now that I bought them, I'm sure someone's going to put out a 4K set. But I got Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3 from 88 Films.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I don't think anyone can put out a box set with. They can put out a double feature with 2 and 3, but I'm pretty sure Shout Factory has the rights locked away for the first one.
Right. I just kind of assumed that can they not get the rights for 2 and 3? I mean, are 88 Films, are they holding on to? I mean, they're not exactly popular titles.
Well, I mean, 88 Films isn't in America, but for some reason they lost those rights within a year of getting the rights. Like those 2 and 3 went out of print pretty fast. But who knows?
Wait, from 88 Films or from
Shout
Factory?
Scream Factory release went out print pretty fast. Like I picked them all up when they were released with their beautiful slipcovers. But
yeah,
I don't know. I was pretty shocked to hear when 2 and 3 were going for big bucks, and I'm like, oh, they are out of print.
Oh wait, that's right. Yeah, no, I've seen pictures of those circulating. All that. Yeah, good grief. That's I forgot all about that. But yeah, that's the reason because I was like, I know there are a lot of Scream and Shout Factory completists and no shaming. I don't think their slipcovers are anything worth spending that amount of money on the aftermarket for, like at all.
No.
So yeah, but yeah, man. I mean, God, I remember people would sell like all 3 of them. I'm pretty sure I've seen some like up in the $300 range, like for the lot of them. But
I mean, I hope somebody re-releases the entire series at some point on 4K. But
I think it has to be done. It's too popular. At least the first one's too popular of the film.
I know it's also a groundbreaking film that the Crime Game ripped off. But Brian, I am excited to announce our title for next week.
Okay, what'd you guys come up with?
Pandemonium.
Nice.
You sure?
Yeah. Yeah.
I've only watched it once, and I honestly I don't remember hating it. So we'll see. Okay.
And then the week after that, it will be Freeway 2: Confessions of a Trick Baby.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds good.
All right, we're glad to have you back. We're glad that you freed yourself from your Shawshank breaking into Grindhouse video.
Thank you.
I got a text from you saying that you got caught by mole people. I'm glad you escaped their evil clutches.
Yeah, it was fucking. If I didn't have cell phone reception, I am a little disappointed that you didn't send help.
Well, Matt and I talked about it. We talked about it, and then we
talked about helping me.
We talked about it, but then we also thought you might have a great story if you actually succeeded.
Well, it was my first time eating mole people. It was the only way I could survive. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure what you would have done though is when you finally cracked the store into the store, you would have just put a carpet over the hole, and the owner would have fallen in and then walk to your house through it.
You know, this is a totally random little story, but I'll share it with you guys because you know how when you think of something in your head, it's just so funny. I haven't tried to like put this one into words, but I was laughing really hard with my wife about it because last time we were in there, the guy I was talking about that's leaving, we were talking about movies and he was recommending Renfield. I don't need to go into it. You guys know I do not like Nick Cage. And I was explaining that to him. I'm like, I'm just not a fan, you know, but I know Rachel wants to see it. So we'll probably end up at some point in the theater to watch it if we can find the time. Anyway, I just thought it'd be so funny because he was like talking it up so much. I just wanted to like barge in the store and just, you fucking lied to me, and start just like knocking all these movies off shelves and just screaming. Make him think I'm a complete psycho. Well, I guess I'm kind of a psychopath, but I just imagined, you know, that scream that Jim Carrey gives in the bathroom stall in Dumb and Dumber.
Yes,
Yeah, that's why I just imagine this guy doing. Just oh,
so this is funny. Last 2 weeks ago, I was having a conversation with another comedian, and he was saying that Nick Cage is the greatest actor of all time because he's never done anything serious. And I'm like, what? Maybe you can only watch the last 10 years of Nick Cage movies, but if you ever watch Leaving Las Vegas or Moonlight or Wild at Heart, there was a time where Nick Cage was actually a good actor.
Con Air.
No, and yeah, and I will actually give you that. Those films, I just don't like him in my horror. I want Nick Cage to stay away from my horror.
But to be fair, Renfield is based on a comic book from the old down defunct publishing company called Caliber, which also published the comic that Frostbiter was based on. Also The Crow, so all roads lead back to Caliber. But that does it for this week's episode. We hope you enjoyed our video store picks as much as Matt and I enjoyed watching them. And Matt, you can never say to me my catchphrase that I say to you.
It's going to happen one of these days.
I will fully admit I have not seen any of the 90s Disney animated movies.
Brian, this guy's never seen Beauty and the Beast. Can you believe that?
Robert,
you'll never be my guest.
You got it. I can't top that.
On that note, thank you for watching Grindhouse Chic starring Robert Schneider with special appearances by Matt Armstrong and Brian Baldwin. I will be back next week with my two cohorts unless I decide to fire them. All right. Thank you very much. Join us next week as we talk about Pandemonium.